I don't think voters will forgive Conservative MPs who, when presented with the opportunity to give the country better leadership, effectively turn around and say that the Conservative Party has no one else available.
Boris Johnson is going to speak to the 1922 committee before the vote. The number 10 says that there's an opportunity to remind these MPs that when they're united and focused on the issues that matter to voters, there is no more formidable political force. So Boris Johnson is going to try and sell the message to his MPs that he is an electoral winner. And are enough of them? Michael Fabricant was on programme just earlier saying he still believes he is a winner in the long term, though would lose a general election if it took place just now. But he's still supporting Boris Johnson. How many more will do that? The view from many people we've spoken to, they'll have enough to remain in position, but we will see what happens over the course of the day. It is 8:38. You're listening to Times Radio Breakfast. So there's going to be this vote of confidence in Boris Johnson tonight. How does Labour respond to the Conservative Party's troubles? We're joined now by the Shadow Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, Wes Streeting. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
What do you make of this? Are you surprised?
Well, it's about time. I mean, we've known about Boris Johnson's rule breaking, the fact he lied to Parliament and lied to the country, and his failure right across the broad sweep of government in terms of the cost of living crisis, the NHS backlog, the big pressures on people's pockets and on the economy. Boris Johnson is failing on so many fronts, and don't take my word for it, take the word of Conservative MPs who are finally breaking cover to express what we've been saying for months and months, which is that Boris Johnson can't be part of the solution to the country's problems because he is part of the problem himself.
What do you think will happen tonight, though? Do you think that the Conservatives will stick with him?
Well, they've got two choices, no confidence or no backbone. Voters will judge Conservative MPs rightly, very harshly, if they stick by this discredited and disgraced Prime Minister. It's one thing for Boris Johnson to try and get through this and hope that he can make it through to the next general election and that voters will forgive him. But I don't think voters will forgive Conservative MPs who, when presented with the opportunity to give the country better leadership, effectively turn around and say that the Conservative Party has no one else available, that Boris Johnson is the best that the Conservative Party has to offer.
You're very eloquent, as you always are, Wes Streeting, on enumerating the flaws and the problems in the Conservative Party, and you've been very clear on that. In those circumstances, though, you should be absolutely tonking them in the polls to an extraordinary level, particularly given where we are in the electoral cycle. At any moment, do you think you can list all the problems that Boris Johnson's facing? He's facing a confidence vote in his own party, and yet Labour isn't necessarily dominating them in an electoral sense or in the polling sense. Now, does that give you pause at all?
Well, there's no doubt whatsoever that since Keir Starmer became leader of the Labour Party, there's been a turnaround in our fortunes. We were recovering from our worst defeat since 1935, and Labour's poll ratings were through the floor when Keir was elected leader. In the space of just over 2 years, I think not only have we seen in the local election results a huge amount of progress and a transformation in where we are in terms of not just the polls, but in terms of votes cast. I also think the fact that we're now asking a different test of Labour is in itself a sign of progress. When Keir became leader, people were asking whether or not the Labour Party would continue to exist. They were writing off the chance of Keir Starmer turning things around in just one term. And now people are saying, why aren't you on course for a landslide majority? So I think that in itself is a reflection of progress. Do we think the job is done? No. Do we know that there's much more to do? Yes. But I think what Keir Starmer has done in just over 2 years as leader of the Labour Party is put the Labour Party back in business, has shown that we're serious, has earned a hearing with the country again. And what we now need to do in the next phase of his leadership is turn anger with the Conservatives and a rejection of the Conservative Party that I think we saw in May's local elections into a positive choice for the Labour Party. And on the cost of living, we've had a clear battle with the government with a clear indication of the different choices a Labour government would make. So on cost of living, on the economy, on public services, at the next election, Labour will have not only inspiring policies, but credible policies. And the job we've got to do now in the period up to the next election, as I say, is to turn anger with the Conservatives into an appetite for a Labour government.
You mentioned that sort of change under Keir Starmer. This year, of course, seen war in Ukraine. We've just had the Platinum Jubilee. Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night, Wes Streeting, and think what would have happened if you'd still been led by an anti-NATO Republican like Jeremy Corbyn?
Fortunately, I sleep soundly at night knowing that Labour has great leadership under Keir Starmer, and I wake up every day, going to work for a leader who I think has all of the makings to be a great prime minister for our country. And, you know, when it comes to defence and security, no one questions where Keir Starmer's Labour Party is pro-NATO, pro-Ukraine, in favour of providing not just humanitarian support to the Ukrainian people, but military aid to the government of Ukraine. Labour can be trusted with defence and security again. That's a crucial test that the voters will apply to anyone who wants to be in government. I think we're passing that test, and we know we've got more to do. I think people have always known, and this is the truth for every Labour opposition in history, people know that Labour's heart's in the right place. We're the party of public services. We want to tackle inequality and injustice. They always just want to know that our head's in the right place too. Can we trust you with the economy, trust you with law and order, and trust you with national security? And on all three of those measures, the economy, crime and national security, Labour has been making ground, regaining, rebuilding, earning trust. We're not cocky, we're not complacent, we know there's more to do, but I think that's why Keir Starmer has not only taken us from our worst defeat since 1935 and turned the ship around. I genuinely think that under Keir's leadership we can win the next general election, and everything about this Conservative government tells me that we must win the next general election.
And on that basis, though, do you tempted to tap Keir Starmer on the shoulder and say, well, hang on a second, you promised that you'll resign if something completely out of your control, you get a fixed penalty notice from Durham Police. Boris Johnson is not resigning from that. He may well win a confidence vote. You've just articulated exactly why Keir Starmer is...
Connection there.
Oh, can you hear me now? Wes Streeting, can you hear us? Oh, we might try and let's try and re-establish connection, because I can see him, and I could hear him, but he couldn't hear us. But the question I want to explore is, because he's big on Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer's not Jeremy Corbyn. We heard Sajid Javid raise Jeremy Corbyn's name. Keir Starmer, the opposite of Corbyn. But Wes Streeting, I think you can hear us now. Are you tempted to say to him, look, Boris Johnson has not resigned because of getting a fixed penalty notice. You've just articulated why he's the right man for the job. It's possible, is it not, that for circumstances now beyond his control, he could still have to resign? Should you not say to him, do you know what, you shouldn't resign, you're the right man for the job?
Well, I've no doubt that Keir won't be in the position of having to resign, because I think Durham Police will draw the same conclusion they did last time. But, you know, I believe Keir when he says that he didn't break the rules. And I also believe Keir when he says if he's fined, he'll resign, because that's the kind of guy he is. And I think in terms of, you know, that choice, in terms of the behaviours, the integrity, the judgment, Keir Starmer versus Boris Johnson, there's no contest as far as I'm concerned. And if Conservative MPs are daft enough to be led into the next election by Boris Johnson, that contrast between Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson is one that I would relish campaigning on.
Just finally, you strike me as a very ambitious person, Wes Streeting. Even at some point, Keir Starmer will no longer be the leader of the Labour Party. You did that interview with the FT, which made you look like very much leadership material. Are you, in your view, is it your ambition to be the next leader of the party?
I'm really proud to be part of Keir Starmer's team, and we are a team. And it's very nice that people say that, you know, Wes Streeting or Lisa Nandy or Rachel Reeves or Yvette Cooper and any other number of members of the Shadow Cabinet are capable of being leaders of the Labour Party. We've got a very strong team. We're Keir Starmer's team. Keir's going to be leading us into the next general election, and I'm really proud to work for him, to campaign for him, and I think he will be a great Prime Minister.
Well played. Wes Streeting, thank you for joining us now.